Most people don't realize this when they have an alcohol problem. They just think they need to stop drinking and everything will be fine. Sobriety is 10% not drinking alcohol and 90% emotional sobriety. And I think it's the biggest reason that people keep going back to day one. I think it's the biggest reason why people can stop drinking, but they're still quite miserable. It's because they don't know how to get emotionally sober. By the end of this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly what emotional sobriety is and how to get it. It is the hill that I'll die on. I have been sober at this point for over 25 years. I got sober when I was 27, not because I was lucky or insightful. I got sober because I was desperate. Alcohol just finished me off. And when I stopped drinking, my life began to get a lot better and a lot calmer. But at 3 years sober, I hit another rock bottom, and it was an emotional rock bottom. On the outside, my life had improved, right? I had, a career, I had a car, I had somewhere to live, I had friends. But on the inside, I still felt like something was missing. I still felt like I was broken. I still felt very separate from other people. And this all came to a head in my romantic relationships. So I was 30 years old at the time. I, wanted to settle down and get married, but I was incapable of sustaining a long-term romantic relationship. And the reason for that was I was still needy. I had low self-esteem. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was worthy of being loved. So that was all going on underneath, right? I would mask that. What kind of person do you think you attract when you feel like that about yourself? So I attracted the same kind of a pattern that I always had, where I would always get abandoned, and it just destroyed me. At 3 years sober, it just destroyed me. And the reason for that was I didn't have an anesthetic anymore. I didn't have anything to numb that pain. And I really didn't want to drink again, but I just didn't know how I was going to get through life feeling this way. And that is when I found emotional sobriety and the particular work of emotional sobriety. And when I say work, what I mean is skills. It really is skill based. And when you have those skills, it's transformational. And that's what I've been teaching in my work. I used to be a psychotherapist in the UK. I get asked all the time. I'm British, but I live in America. That's why my accent is a bit peculiar. I was a psychotherapist in the UK. I ran rehabs. I had a private practice. And in the USA, I work as a sobriety coach and have clients all over the world. And what I teach is emotional sobriety, the skills of emotional sobriety. It's the hill that I will die on. We come into this because we don't want to drink anymore, because alcohol is so catastrophic in our lives. We stay in this because the work of emotional sobriety, these skills, bring so many riches and rewards to your life. And it's really what turns sobriety from like this fear of missing out to FOMO to JOMO, right? The joy of missing out. Because I had you have no idea what is in store for you if you do this work. It's beyond anything I could have imagined. I just wanted to not drink anymore, not have anxiety anymore, and get a boyfriend, right? That's what I thought I needed to be happy. And I got like so much more than that. If you think about how we come into drinking, right? A lot of it is our culture. You probably grew up in a culture similar to me, British culture, American, Australian, South African, European cultures. We've normalized abnormal drinking, right? Alcohol is inserted everywhere with every single social event. And it's sold to us as the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, to relax and to reward yourself, right? If you have alcohol, you can get all of these great things. Fabulous. Who doesn't want those great things, right? So I jumped straight into that at 15 years old. And I definitely had fun at the beginning. There was always a cost. There was always a cost to my drinking. I had really bad hangovers. I'd get fired from jobs, but I didn't care because I thought the cost of drinking was worth all the fun I was getting. That is a perception rather than a fact. Because when we drink, it's a certain perception. It's a certain way of seeing things and a certain story that we tell ourselves. And that's really what's got to shift in order for us to stay sober. All sobriety is a shift in perception. You just see everything differently. And to make that happen, we have to have an internal change, an internal shift. And that's what emotional sobriety does. So my drinking started as this, like, I thought it was fun and exciting and all of that kind of stuff. And I wanted to make friends. And it changed quite quickly, because one of the consequences of all of this was I got really bad anxiety and panic attacks. And I now know that that's really common. And if you've experienced anything like that, let me know in the comments below. I would have daily panic attacks. And very, very quickly, my brain made this connection that if I was anxious about a situation, most situations I was anxious about, if I had a drink or two beforehand, I could manage it. So my drinking changed very quickly from believing it was the best way to have fun to needing it to manage my anxiety, my fear, and how I felt. Like I didn't know how to manage my feelings at all. Disappointment, fear, resentment, anger, loneliness, depression. I did not know. I did not have the skills. I did not know how to navigate or manage those feelings. So very quickly, my brain went, alcohol works. And that neuro pathway is created. You don't like how you feel? Alcohol will fix it. And I wonder if you've done the same. So for a long time, I was stuck in looking for outside fixes, right? I was always looking for, like, alcohol as an outside fix, boyfriends, food, screen time, all of this kind of stuff is like, they're dopamine hits. That's basically what they're dopamine hits. They feel good. They fix these feelings. And emotional sobriety is really, a lot of it is learning key skills of emotional self-regulation. That this is essential. All human beings need to know how to do this. It's just when you have an alcohol problem, you get quite an urgent invitation to learn these skills. So let me explain exactly what emotional sobriety is so you know when you get it, right? Emotional sobriety is when you feel comfortable in your own skin and you like yourself. Now, that is not a small thing, because when we have an alcohol problem, right, we leave ourselves by degrees. And this happens very subtly, and we don't realize it's actually happening. And it's like this, white lie that you tell, like, because you're hungover and you're like, oh, I think, I had a dodgy takeaway last night. Or, you're manipulating that there's enough alcohol so you can drink as much as you want to drink. It's all the little lies and manipulations, all those little things, like just one or two, what's the big deal, right? But these things build up. And one day you wake up and you've become somebody you don't recognize. And that's what happened to me. I woke up and I just really didn't like the person I'd become. I had become someone who was flaky, irresponsible, people pleasing, didn't mean what she said, gossipy. I just didn't like myself. Yeah, that's who I was. That's how people experienced me. And it caused incredible emotional pain and distress that I had become this person that I didn't want to be, and that other people saw me as this person, and that I had lost myself. Sobriety is the journey back to yourself. That's all it is. It's the journey back to yourself. So that's what I mean about not liking yourself. It's a very uncomfortable, painful way to live. And when, we feel discomfort and emotional pain, we're going to look for an anesthetic. So emotional sobriety is this journey back to yourself where you finally feel comfortable in your own skin. In therapist terms, we call that being congruent. And because of that, you just like yourself, right? It's not like I need to go out there and go, everybody like me. It's just, I like the person who I am. I'm not perfect. I mess up all the time, but none of that has any bearing on my worth. So emotional sobriety is that, alongside knowing how to emotionally self-regulate, how to master my emotions. Because if you're human, you are going to have feelings and emotions. You can't get away from that. It's knowing how to be the master of them rather than them mastering you, which is how I lived, right? I just felt like a little boat on the ocean without, a rudder. I was just this way and that way. So it's being able to emotionally self-regulate so that I can always get back to this place of just this kind of like nice, balanced place that I live in most of the time. And if, something disappointing happens, I'm disappointed. Or something frightening happens, I'm frightened. But none of those emotions They pass through. Like, that's how they're meant to. They're just meant to process through, and you take the lessons and off they go. Something joyful happens, I feel joy. So it's feeling the full spectrum of the human experience without being capsized and without them owning you. Am I making sense? Have you had that experience? So it's learning these skills, because once we have the skills of emotional sobriety, we can then manage our mental and emotional health. And that's key to staying sober long term. Once you know how to manage your mental and emotional health, your brain stops looking for alcohol as the solution. The reason that your brain keeps going to alcohol as the solution is because you just don't have a better way to deal with everything that's inside of you. Does this make sense? Let me know in the comments below. So knowing how to manage your mental and emotional health is the key. That is the key. Now, one of the ways I help people do that is in the Soberful Mastermind. The Soberful Mastermind is a group coaching program with me. And what we work on is these skills. So there's some digital content to go through that will teach you kind of the foundational theory of emotional sobriety and the skills that you need to practice. And then we have live group coaching calls twice a month with me, where I help you apply those skills to your life. I also answer questions, and people come because they have, various things they're stuck with or they want help with, where I can offer coaching and support and all of that kind of stuff. But this is for people who really want to get down into this deeper work, right? They want to be sober. They're just missing the how. So it's theory and then applying that theory to your life. So what we need is community, a program, and mentorship. And that's what the Soberful Mastermind offers. And you can find all the details to sign up for that in the links below. I want to make sure that you watch the next video, because the next video, I'm going to be talking about the characteristics of a dry drunk. And being a dry drunk is kind of like the polar opposite to being emotionally sober. I was a dry drunk. Most people spend a little time being a dry drunk before we know that there is a different way. So make sure you check out the video.